Okay, in this example, we're going to take the basic function x squared and write the transformation for this parabola given. So we can see we originally started with x squared, but now have a transformation that kind of moved it a little down and a little to the right. So if I went ahead and just graphed x squared, I would have this graph here. And so we can, if we just took the vertex here, we can see that this vertex in the blue graph versus the vertex on the new graph, which is g of x, we could see that it went down 2 units down and 1 unit to the right. So in this case, if we use the generic form of g of x is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k, where h is the horizontal shift and k is the vertical shift, this means that we would see that the horizontal shift would be 1 unit to the right, and the vertical shift would be 2 units down. Okay, let's go ahead and put this into the function. So I'll have g of x equal to a times x minus, and then at that point we have h, which is 1, squared plus 2 units down. So we have the 2, but it's down, so we have to subtract 2 to go down. So if I wrote this a little nicer, I would have a times x minus 1 squared minus 2. Now we're not done just yet, right? Because we do have this a that we have to find. And the a is going to be the vertical, a is a vertical stretch or compression. So we just have to find it. And the easiest way is to take a well-defined point on the g of x graph itself, which is this black graph, and plug and chug and find it. Because we could see that it's definitely not as narrow as the blue graph or the generic x squared graph. We see that there's some sort of width here, meaning we kind of scrunch this down a little to get the width out. So just looking at the black graph, I do see a well-defined point at 3, -1, or 5, 2. I also have one at 3, 2. And so we can just decide here, or -1, 1. So I'll go ahead and pick um, -1, -1. That sounds like fun. So if I pick the point -1, -1, let's go ahead and plug this in. So now I have g of -1 equal to a times -1, because that's x, right, minus 1 squared minus 2. Since this whole g of -1 is -1, right, that's the output here, right, we get -1 equal to a times -2 squared minus 2, and then we get -1 equals 4a minus 2. So let's go ahead and solve for a. Go ahead and add 2 to each side to get 1 equals 4a, and divide each side by 4, in which a would equal 1/4. So just putting this all together, we do get g of x to be equal to 1/4 x minus 1 squared minus 2. I hope this helps.